On the bench today we have an SBE Console 2, a Turner Plus 3 microphone, and a Siltronix Model 90 VFO. Just got done redoing the radio, actually all three of them. The microphone, replaced the caps in it, same thing with the radio, it's been recapped, and turn the radio down there, and recapped the Siltronix VFO. It's a nice looking radio, very minor blemishes on it, it's really nice condition overall. There's a little bit of just a discoloration in this kind of brownish, I don't even know what the hell color you'd call that, like a brownish red, metallic, almost dark copper colored or bronze, but there's a little blemish right there. You can probably see it right above my finger, but and it's not through, it's just like it's thin right there. But other than that, it's in really nice condition. Now this is a 23 channel AM sideband radio. The customer bought the radio and the microphone as a package deal, and basically was going to restore it, but what can you do with it? It's 23 channel. That's what the Siltronix Model 90 VFO is for. So with that installed, you can now get your 40 channels. So that's one of the downfalls of the old radios if you have one. You can't get where all the action is, 38 lower sideband. Now, if you only wanted to get to a certain group of channels, like I'd have to look it up in the crystal chart and figure out the mixing scheme, but it's either a bank of 3 or I think it's 4 channels in these. But you'd remove something like the 11.950 crystal, and then you would get a custom crystal cut and install it in its place. And then instead of having like maybe channel 20, 21, 22, and 23, you would then have, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So, but then you lose channel 20, 21, 22, and 23. That's the only problem with doing crystal swaps on crystal synthesized radios. And I say crystal synthesized or crystal mixing because this does not have, this isn't old enough to where it had a separate receive and transmit crystal for each channel. So it has a block, and they're on the underside. Yeah, these radios are a little bit weird. There's no components on the top. Well, I mean, there are some, but all of the components is kind of like a mobile radio. They're all facing down, where in most base station radios, you would be looking at the components right now with the radio in the right side up direction. So, but I'll show you the crystal block. It's right down here. But like I say, that's one way to get the get channels that you want to get to with an older radio. Of course, the other option is the VFO. These were very popular back in the day, especially after 40 channels came around. Everybody had a 23 channel radio, and all of a sudden they didn't have access to all those new all those new channels that they had that they could use, that they were now allowed to use. So the Siltronix, the Pauls, Mako, Tram, God, everybody and their brother seemed to get into the VFO business around that time frame. But the Siltronix was probably the most robustly built. It's basically almost looks like a Siltronix 1011, radio, the Comanches, and basically operates the same. This is almost kind of the VFO circuit, out of one of those somewhat. But like I say, it's an easy way to get those channels. And another advantage of the Siltronix Model 90 VFOs is you have CB, HF, but it has 3 crystal positions. So let's say you wanted to have good crystal, you don't have to want to worry about tuning in to get to a channel or flipping back and forth. Well, you can get a custom crystal cut. Actually, you could get 3 custom crystals cut for, and that would be, because you have to remember, that's with the mixing scheme, how the radio works. So, like right now, channel 23, the blank spot there, and 21 do not work in this radio. If you turn this VFO off, those channels are completely dead because that crystal is used to, or that frequency coming out of this VFO is used to mix with different crystals in those positions. So, you could put a crystal, get a custom crystal cut for, say, position 1, 2, or 3. There's a little socket inside. You pop the crystal in there, and it gives you back crystal control, and then you might have 20, 37, 38, 39, and 40. But, that's another option. Like I say, just really well built. Once they warm up, they're a lot a lot, in my opinion, a lot more stable than a lot of the other VFOs. And like all VFOs, they take a little while to warm up. But and it's one reason I don't like putting LEDs in these. I always make sure it has a light bulb in it. The light bulb actually helps a little bit with the power regulation in these things. But the main thing is it's actually adding some heat inside, additional heat in the VFO, and it actually heats up faster because that incandescent light bulb's in there. So let me go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll get, while it's still hooked up, one of the neat features of the console 2, actually, let me flip over to dummy load so I'm not transmitting on air. Anyhow, one of the kind of neat features of the console 2 was, you notice this isn't illuminated. That's because it's not a meter, it's the on-air light. So if I key the microphone, see it says on air. But now if I talk into the microphone, audio check, audio, 1, 2, 3, 4, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the intensity of it changes with modulation, so it almost acts kind of like a modulation meter. It's just, visual with light instead of a meter indication. But, it's a kind of a neat little thing that they did with these. Otherwise, control-wise, fairly straightforward, multifunction meter switch. This doesn't have an on-off down here. It actually has a slide switch for the on-off. CBPA, noise blanker, volume and RF gain, mode selector. Now this control was kind of bass backwards. Now it really doesn't matter with this radio because it's going to be used with the VFO. So the clarifier, you don't need it. This is the clarifier. It has the coarse tune, the fast spin on the back, and then the front one would be like a fine tune. But there's really no need for the clarifier. But what's kind of odd, and it's like I say, it's bass backwards compared to other clarifiers. Usually if the clarifier is on a multi-function control or a dual control like this, the clarifier is on the outside. Because that's the one when you're on sideband, you're going to be clarifying all the time. Nope, not on this one. This outside one's actually the squelch. The clarifier is the one on the rear. So yeah, that was a little, like I say, bass backwards, but hey, what are you going to do? And like I say, it doesn't really matter anymore because that's now the clarifier, basically. Let's see, is there anything actually to show you on the top here? Oh yeah, actually, like I say, other than the board's upside down, now the electrolytic capacitor is way monster oversized in this thing. The original was, it's down here in the can somewhere, in the recycle bin. I think that one might have been it. I don't know, there's a lot of them down there. Wasn't that one. Pretty sure that was it. Anyhow, it was a 3300 microfarad. No, actually, because that's not big enough around. There it is. This thing had one monster of a cap in it for its size. Yeah, there it is. It's 3300 microfarad, only at 35 volt. But look at the size of this thing. It is good googly muggly Batman. Well, let me reach up here and grab a new one. If I were to stick a modern 3300 microfarad cap in there, and this one's even at 50 volts, you can see the physical size difference. And this thing, it doesn't hardly weigh anything. I mean, it feels like it's full of air. But yeah, the physical size. So to maintain the original can clamp, because that actually isn't a clamp that's attached to the bottom of the steel chassis, the smallest value capacitor I had that was physically the size that would fit in a clamp, at least even half, and this is a 10,000 microfarad, and even it is smaller in diameter and shorter than this one. So I actually ended up going to a slightly smaller can clamp just to use even a 10,000 in there, because there really isn't anywhere to mount a capacitor to a circuit board. You don't want it flopping around in there. So yeah, it's got over 3 times as much capacitance now, which is always a good thing. Always upgrade them anyhow, but usually it wouldn't be upgraded quite that much. Let's see what else. Now, this radio, let me turn that power supply off here. This radio went through a lot of revisions over the years. Originally, and you'll see it when I flip the radio over, but originally did not have your standard driver and final transistors like you're used to seeing in the little epoxy, potted ones. These are little metal cans, okay? Now, this was a radio that was a little bit later. And this has a lot of revisions. There's parts missing, different parts added, and it was done by SBE. It's just updates they did over the years. But the one big change that they made was the actual final. So this is the final on the underside, and this is the driver under here. I don't know if I can even get down in there and be able to see it or not. I don't know if I can get in that close where it'll focus. Down up there, you can just see it. You can see that where through that hole, you see it says C19. Well, the camera's focusing there. It's actually a 1969. So this radio was made right around the time when radios started switching from using those, older style transistors to the newer style transistors. So instead of just making up a whole new circuit board, they just kind of figured out a way to cram a modern T220 packaged transistor down under there where there were supposed to be one that looked like that. Because originally that's what this radio, when it was first produced, would have had two transistors that looked like that. And like I say, so that's one change. You can see there's other stuff that's missing here. Coil L7 is no longer in this radio. It just has a capacitor sticking up there. But like I say, that's all factory. That was all done from the factory. The crystal block, so here you can see underneath this little plastic shield, if I can get it off. Things can be a bugger to get off. Yeah, you can see it's clear. You can see it's the crystals through it. But anyhow, there's the crystals for the crystal mixing. And the last crystal was removed. This piece of coax cable here, actually there's an RCA jack now on the back of the radio that was added for the input from the VFO. This last crystal was removed, then this coax cable goes up to the top side of the board, or the solder side, and it's soldered to the circuit board where that crystal socket is for that missing crystal. So there you go, there's the underside. Like I say, it's been completely recapped, all new electrolytics. It's had a transceiver alignment done, and is now a good working radio. But there's just a quickie overview of a SBE Console 2, and one way to get these to where they're a lot more functional on modern channels. Yeah, I know the top of this thing probably looks, you're thinking to yourself, man, that looks like crap. Well, yeah, it does look like crap. I don't know what the customer is going to take care of the paint on this. He knew it looked like that when he bought it. He wasn't sure if it was something that would easily come off, but yeah, I don't know if something was spilled on here or somebody sprayed something on this, but it's kind of shiny in spots the whole way around, almost like maybe somebody tried to clear coat it, but it's not. It's spotty. And then something was laid down on top of it, and the paper stuck to it. Well, it also halfway melted the paint, this crinkle paint finish on here. It's actually deformed in a lot of spots. So yeah, it basically needs to be completely stripped and repainted. So the customer is going to take care of that. So 6 screws, the cover pops off. So, that's easy for anybody. Anybody can do that with a rattle can of wrinkle paint. So there you go, though. There's just a little quick overview of a SBE Console 2 and ways to bring it into the modern times.